thank you everybody to join this new webinar. And I'm super happy, super delighted to get free of my best fans and smart women working in the industry since so many time. So as you know, I've got by Activo, main our team are driven by women's spirits, and so very happy to get all of you. So thank you, Jill, thank you, Lisa, thank you, Celine. And so the purpose, in fact, today is really to share our best practices alongside the DAM things. And but just maybe before to start, I would like to my smart DAM women to talk a little bit about what they are doing and regarding the dams or their experience. So stage is you, Jill.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Really happy to be here and be included in a group of smart women with Lisa and Celine. I think you and I have been working together on and off for the last 15 years at least in the DAM space, starting off in, I think, 2000, looking at different dams and what Adobe was doing. And here they've bought Workfront and have AEM and everything now. So that was where I first got into the DAM world and was working with creative professionals and assets, spending time there as a product manager and marketer and in operations. And then from there, I went to be VP of Systems Integrator and got to work with a lot of the different dams in the industry and partners, including Dahlem, where I met you. And most recently, I've been very focused on MarTech advising and doing marketing strategy and leadership development for people that are implementing dams and bringing all of the years of experience of seeing what's worked and what fails when you're looking at a dam, as well as when you're doing a full-on digital transformation at a company and how you can be successful there. I think the people are the most important part of it. And so to me, that's where the heart of it is. And that's why I'm focusing these days with Ajillity. So thank you for having me here.
And so for maybe you can tell us a little bit more about Ajillity. So I really like the name regarding your name, etc. So I just try to put this slide, just pick up from your website.
Appreciate that. So Ajillity is, obviously from the name, it's focused on agile, iterative processes, and this is exactly what we need to be successful with the DAM. We need to define what success looks like from the very get-go, and then start with the teams that have the greatest need and the users that are most passionate about making these changes. And if we can prove success there, what I've seen time and time again is that other groups within the company actually come and ask, can we please be part of the DAM? Can we please be part of this initiative? And they're excited to be part of it. Other times when it's not done that way, we see the whole thing fail. And it's sad with the amount of effort, time, and money that goes into it to see it fail. There's no reason for it.
And so can you tell us a little bit more finally your customers? So it's it can be finally or it can be some technology or company or some.
Yes, it's usually the creative operations, CMOs, departments, those areas of the organization, creative directors, studio. We work with them to figure out what the best digital asset management solution is, bring it in-house, or if they already have one, we take a look at their operations and help them identify areas to innovate and automate, as well as essentially we're trying to make it so that any repeatable processes become as automated as possible so that we increase velocity of content. We can ideally start to predict what kind of content we should be creating that will perform the best in the marketplace. And then we have a really well integrated set of solutions that are best of breed so that we're getting the most out of our innovation and technology investments. But ultimately, it's all about the people. And so how do we enable them to have more time to be creative and doing the parts of the job they love and not the parts that frankly we can have algorithms and machines do for us these days?
Okay. And as for example, I saw that with customers, sometimes we are thinking that because we have some nice piece of technology today, it can be much easier. But finally, during the last years, those, especially with Actio during the last 3 years, I see that more and more this needs of, because people are lost in this technology of stacks and etc. So do you have the same experience regarding these needs of really of I'm calling in somehow on my side design thinking DAM etc. So is it the same feeling you have on your side?
Yeah, what I've definitely been seeing is that different groups, especially when you don't have a digital asset management system as the core, you could almost think of it as a center of excellence, but the core of your content management solution, if it's not already there and you're introducing it later on, which is typically how DAMs end up coming to being, you've already got lots of disparate teams using different pieces of technology within their tech stack, whether it be for social listening, PR. They may have something like a Workfront or whatnot for workflow and other types of analytics to do performance management and resource management, that kind of thing. And as you know, PIM and all that your company is very into. If there's no reason to make them go off of those, typically you don't have to replace every system. I'm actually much more into letting people stay on whatever's working for their team and emulating that as much as possible, but then just integrating the DAM into it and connecting it.
Yeah. Thank you, Jill. So now, Lisa, I think it's to you to talk about your great experience regarding as a digital asset manager, management, and etc. with Novartis, or I will just push with a couple of things you can talk and share with us.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Fred. It's always nice to get to chat DAM. So, as you mentioned, I'm the Global Director for Digital Asset Management at Novartis. I'm based in Dublin. Most of my team is actually in Basel in Switzerland, although we've got people certainly all over the world. I've been doing, as it says here, DAM and sort of enterprise content, taxonomy, all the stuff like that for a very, very long time now. I've done a lot in, the museums and archives and library space, in publishing, in tech directly. I was at Amazon for a few years, both working in AWS, trying to sort of overhaul some of their content products, as well as on the taxonomy team and the Amazon.com mothership, but at GSK as well, where I led DAM. And I do see people want to know about Beer Ladies. I am the co-host of the Beer Ladies podcast, which is based in Dublin. You can find us in all the socials. Happy to follow up later. So if you hit me up on Twitter, I can certainly direct you to some of our previous episodes. We're on a break until the end of August, and then we'll be back with new episodes. But I think I wanted to pick up on something that that Jill said is we work in a really agile fashion. I lead DAM at Novartis as a product. It's, I think one of those things we always see as a roadblock is, DAM is sort of viewed as a project. We've done it once and then we're done. No, it's this ongoing product. And so I'm the product owner within the company, although of course I work really closely with our vendors to try to get on their roadmap. And so it's, I do a lot of sort of matching up roadmaps and really trying to get into that kind of customer back design, figuring out what's the governance for not just things like the day-to-day things like the taxonomy, but how do we get in new feature requests? How do we evaluate those features? How do we know something is going to sort of really bring value to most of our customers, or to a big number of our customers? What's going to be impactful? So I'm really fortunate to have it's a very diverse team that I can work with to really solicit a lot of those opinions. And again, we work at Novartis in Agile with a capital A. So I'll speak a little bit more about that later. But we work in 3-week sprints. We get new sort of features and new functionality out there to customers as quickly as we can. If it doesn't work, we find out right away. It's okay to try things and fail and then roll out something better. And again, it's really all about what are we getting out there to the people and who are our advocates. Again, to pick up on something Jill said, who can really help kind of be our cheerleaders across the company. It's not just about rolling out that tech. It's making sure that what we have makes sense. And I am a huge advocate too for having really, really good metadata and really good governance around that metadata. It makes me sad when metadata is bad, since it underpins everything. So it's all about that data model for me. And I think just a little sort of snippet of things to come. I think we're going to see more and more reliance in sort of or capabilities in future DAM initiatives in terms of sort of really integrating closely with things like master data management and not trying to do everything in one, but maybe being that single source of truth. So more to come there. I have opinions.
Yeah, thank you. And so finally, you are working with Novartis since I think it's the last 3 years. Is it correct?
It's 2 years now. I was at Amazon just before that, and at GSK prior to that, but just coming up on 2 years now.
Okay, yes, yeah, because I know in some of the story with Mark, so that was
yes.
involved.
Yes, Mark is still involved behind the scenes, so yeah, happy to catch up on that too. So I know we're a niche field; everyone knows everyone else, but
yeah, for sure.
Great to still have him.
Yes, I had the time also to visit your beer history, so
yes,
the reason why I also put it on the slide.
Absolutely, it's what gets people coming back. All good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much. So,
thank you.
Of course, because you are so deep dive with your DAM management. Regarding the next slides, I will ask you a couple of questions because just your experience matters. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
And now stage is for the first webinar of Celine. Just to tell you the story is in fact the last DAM webinar where we can meet people. It was a creative operation in London in 2020. And so I remember that Celine was there as the DAM manager of Abu Dhabi, Louvre, etc. And so I was very impressed about the I would say the background she has in photography, because as you know, it's maybe with the back, my second patient. And in fact, when you are looking at what is a DAM, everything starts from the photo shooting. So Celine, tell us a little bit more about your great experience.
So firstly, hello. Thank you for having me, Fred. And thank you to all who are attending. So I'm currently the Global DAM Manager at Save the Children. And my background, as Fred just mentioned, is really photography. So I started out managing my own content. So you could say I was involved with DAM before it was called DAM, perhaps. And then I moved more agency side, and then moved into the arts and culture, working in the museum, very much all in the operational side. And really what it taught me was all of the important touch points of the workflow involved with the asset lifecycle. And then I got this amazing opportunity to set up the digital asset management at Louvre Abu Dhabi, where I could kind of combine all of my experience and help set that up at Louvre Abu Dhabi. And I feel like every time it kind of, the same thing came up, which was really about what I really love is kind of looking at the workflows, seeing who's involved in the creation of assets, looking at all the existing workflows, like Jill said, not wanting to replace what's going on, but really seeing what's happening at the time and seeing what can be optimized and improved with potentially a system, a DAM system. And now I'm with Save the Children, and I've been there for about 3 months. And it's, you know, this is a very different stage to the Louvre Abu Dhabi, where you're setting something up from scratch. Here, I'm kind of seeing it's a discovery phase where I'm assessing, the users, like Lisa just mentioned, all the advocates, all the people, all the users that are involved in the project that I can kind of bring on board and see how I can optimize the already existing DAM system. So that's
for sure. And you have something like more or less the same experience as Lisa. So Lisa started 2 years ago with Novartis and the DAM vendor, and regarding the talk we had all together yesterday. So you're also starting with a vendor, and so you are in between to make everything happening.
Yep.
Okay, so thank you, Celine. I appreciate your background and your experience. So just very quickly on our side, but I know that a couple of people know what we are doing. So more or less, we are a new company, a venture I just started 3 years ago. It's all about DAM, but as we'll see, it's and more, it's not only the DAM, because it's more, and especially for retailers, it's always a PIM, something behind, and also CMS is. And the reason why, as for example, I just started also with a few months ago with a group Accor, hospitality, and more and more such customers are searching for all-in-one solution. And so that's a nice, very nice experience that we can have. And at every time, the DAM is really the foundation of everything. And of course, but I think we are more or less driven by the same strategy. It's all about the analysis, audits, requirements, and vendor selection. And of course, we are agnostic, so we are not a reseller as we can think. And so more or less, I'm not alone, as you will see. So I've got a lot of women around me. It's more or less something like really, it's when somebody is starting with Activo, it's always better to be a woman. And so Malika is also driving the company with me, and so we are working all together. And the team is, as you can see, a lot of women in the meantime. And so, but by the way, we have to improve, because here we need also some guys in order to get a balance. And so we are working most of the time for brands, luxury agencies, retailers, and just a couple of the brands we are working with. So, and it's more or less every time the same. So we're starting from, okay, we are searching for a DAM solution, so how we can start with. Of course, we have, I would say one more thing is, because it's all these guys are French, and it's also something I like in this field, because DAM started in the US something like 25 years ago. I remember also the first thing I was doing in agency with Xinet and etc. And so, but there's a huge gap, in fact, between, I would say, US and UK and France, because the DAM is not so mature in France. It's always a challenge for the vendors, because they have to speak French, you have to get some French materials, etc. So, reason why we found the opportunity to leverage the DAM. And also, as Lisa was saying with Mark, so I really appreciate Mark, and we are working also together alongside the 10 core characteristics. But something I can mention just after, because a lot of job has been done by Mark regarding since 2014. And so I really appreciate the knowledge background. So it's definitely a good guy. And finally, what they're doing, and well, working all together, is very useful for any people that wants to start with a DAM, just like the demo scenarios and etc. So before going deep dive in a couple of things regarding the DAM, I think it's much more important to talk about finally what matters for the customers. And I was asking to our ladies I've got a question finally that we can share together. The first one I put, I think it's one in me, so I'm sorry, I should have moved this one at the end. But finally, I think Lisa and all of you can answer to this question. Is a couple of things I get today from the customer is, first of all, they are completely lost. So it's how I can start, and finally, how I can believe that what vendors are demonstrating is in fact is right. So we have always this feeling of over-promising, in fact, of features. It looks like that the system can do everything. So regarding your experience, as for example, Lisa, so what's your approach regarding this over-promising, I would say, presentation of DAMs by vendors?
Yeah, I can jump in first on that. I think even with vendors that are doing a great job, there's always something that you see in the kind of final bake-off, or something that you see before you sort of sign the contract, that you then find out, oh, that's going to be in a future roadmap. It's not quite there yet, or it's going to be in the next release. And I think we always hear that. And I know for myself as a product owner, I will often go back and say to my customers, oh, it is in the roadmap. And it's not untrue, but it's a question of, again, when you're working in an agile fashion, is it something you can pull forward? Is it not? And so for me, it's very interesting working really closely with a vendor, but also serving as that internal product manager, because we like to sort of sync up, but we don't always. But I find that what really does help is to stay very, very close to that product team, to have really regular sync ups. So whether that's, even weekly or twice a month, something like that, with the actual product team who's working on development, so that you can say, here's the use case that we're struggling with. This is where my customers are really not wanting to adopt X or Y, or are finding this feature really, really hard to use, et cetera. To be really, really crystal clear on what are the problems we're trying to solve, and whether or not there is some, I would say, give in that roadmap, either internally or on their side. And I think when you get to a good place with them, you are very clear about what is and isn't possible. But it can take a while to get there, and I think it's a matter of staying as close to them as you can, but also making sure you're doing your due diligence, seeing what are the competitors doing that maybe might help push a particular feature, or something that is something that would be real nice to have a little further up in the roadmap. So I think it's always a negotiation. Obviously, you want to have a lot of these things really, really clear in the contract. That's something too where you want to work with your procurement up front before you even, go down that road. But make sure you're having those catch-ups with the product team. Make sure you're working with your professional services, and be really, really clear about what those timelines are. And again, it's easy to say, oh, we're agile. We can't necessarily give you a timeline, but we can tell you whether it's in this sprint or in the next sprint. I totally get that, and I've said that myself. But I think, again, it's so important to make sure that everyone kind of agrees. What is the problem we're trying to solve? When are we going to see it actually built? When are we going to demo it? Who's going to test it? Be really clear about who those people are who are in that sprint planning, who are in making sure it's coming forward, and they're just in those product roadmap meetings. And sometimes it means you need to sort of pull in your more senior people potentially to get some things over the line. But it's really about being able to tell the story about why your customers need to see X or Y. And again, not to get that over promising, to get out of that. There's always going to be a little bit, but I think it's all about managing those expectations.
Yeah, thank you. And finally, you are talking about the bake-off, etc. So, which is of course a good starting point if you really want to be in touch. I know that Jill, you are a fantastic pre-sales and to do demonstration. I think it was around the Adobe technologies. So, is it something for you which is very important in order to see the system in action, and just not talking about something that maybe the customer?
I think it really depends. Yeah, I think it can vary a little bit from field to field. In pharma, it's so important because what you're doing is almost invariably so different from what's out of the box. You really do need to, get into a sandbox environment, get some real data into it, get some real assets into it, and see what you're going to get. I think that's true of most fields, but especially in a regulated environment, it's really hard to see what's going to work and what's not going to work from just a sort of very general demo. And I think too, even once you've bought something, you're well down the road, you want to keep doing these proof of concepts. You want to keep doing development to make sure that what you're thinking about together is feasible. So I think it's not necessarily a one and done. Even once you've seen something that can work, you want to make sure that you've got that space, again, whether it's a sandbox or some kind of development environment. You can keep trying new things and keep testing.
Yeah. Some things I've seen trip up, especially when we're going through the DAM buying process or roll out to when we're going at scale. Some things to watch out for, in my experience, have been when they talk about customization. So yes, you can do that feature, but of course it's going to be a customization. So just run far, run fast. Number two, when they say configuration, that's possible as well. Find out if configuration is a different word for customization. Third would be when you're looking at your long-term requirements and your nice-to-haves, strip out everything you don't absolutely need. Just stick with going back to what will success look like define that, and then that core set of requirements. The rest of it's just nice to have, and you might end up choosing a vendor based on some, let's call it a localization or language requirement that never even shows up and isn't relevant, because the way you do translation is through a different vendor anyway, and you're just going to stay with them. Or like the whole, oh yeah, we need to house all of our video in here too. Well, do you really? Or are they already speccing out something else for that, right?
Yeah.
Those are the big things. So the other thing I've seen be really successful when you're trying to determine what the DAM can or cannot do, and what's on the roadmap, and what's, you know, vaporware, if you will, is, you know, we'll actually do our own informal knowledge, let's call it knowledge sharing, but, you know, go back to your own informal network, find out users that are not references of the company you're thinking about buying from or have bought from. Basically create your own little user group of folks that know that particular DAM or have experienced it, and find out how are they using it? What's been a big challenge for them? How is that going to impact you, or is it not even a concern? That goes a long way towards making sure that your investment and long-term initiatives will be successful.
Yeah, thank you, Jill. And Celine, as you are starting with your with 7 children, or is it something that you saw with the first, I would say, touch with the vendor, or is there, what's your experience?
Sorry, I didn't catch the full question.
Yeah, in fact, regarding the fact that you are starting with your new role as a DAM manager and the new system, is it something that also you have to? I know that you are in a way to start a training and etc. So, but do you see something that maybe at one time can be from the vendor, something like overpromising, or is it in right alignment regarding the RFP and all the business requirements of the customer?
I think it's all in line with what was promised from my point of view. I would say the one thing is that may be overlooked is also how closely you work with a vendor. So I would say when you're choosing your DAM, it's also you're entering a long-term relationship. So you really want to make sure that you're going to be able to, that the ways of working are going to match, and you're going to be able to kind of, you know, approach the project or the program in a way that it's going to be a collaboration. I think for me, like being in my first 3 months, it's very much getting used to a new system, but also getting used to the vendor, and the vendor also getting used to my way of working. So it's sort of this, you sort of build this collaboration, and we're still ironing out how best we can work together. So yes, we're ironing out our approach to new changes or updates that need to be done. Something else I wanted to also reinforce with what Jill said, when, you know, working at Louvre Abu Dhabi, looking for a DAM system, when you are at the first stages of that research, it can be quite overwhelming. But what's really wonderful is that there's a great community out there, you know, in every sector that have had experience with DAM, and it's really good. I've found that extremely helpful, talking to people with perhaps more experience, knowledge from all walks of life. And I found actually even in different sectors to the one that I'm working in is really useful, because it helps you think outside the box and maybe approach a problem in a different way. So again, it's coming back to that collaboration. A lot of it is really being open to different solutions. But also the other thing is also defining, coming back to what Lisa said, involving your subject matter experts, so that you can really make sure that in the very early stages of, even before the RFP, that you involve them very early on, so that you really pinpoint what are the most important areas that you must include, and you can agree on that before you go to the RFP and the next stages. I think that, from my experience, that's really, really helpful.
Okay, thank you, Celine. So the next question is coming from Jill, and in fact, it's very interesting regarding the fact that because when we are trying to list all the business requirements, we are of course starting from the user stories. So how finally we can drive this user story from an agile tech stack development. So let us know, Jill.
So I think, Lisa hit it on the head when you think of the DAM owners as being product managers within the company. And, all good product managers have a lot of customer empathy. They spend a lot of time with their customers, and they understand what their pain points are and how they need to address it. So, you come up with your MVP basically of your first versions of your DAM and the core pieces that are most important to your success to roll out. And then you start to layer on top of that all of the additional functionality and features that you need to make it so that it becomes the center, the hub of everything for your content, your one true source.
Okay, and finally, so today, because I have this experience with one customer, of course, we are talking about the fact that sometimes vendor can be overpricing, but in the meantime, it's also challenge sometimes customers have some, I would say, some difficulties to understand, I have to pay once again because we have to use API to get this custom action. Why? Nobody was asking you to get to manage that user story. It's not possible. So sometimes I have to face this type of talk between the customer and the vendor. So it's I think the success is also part of the two sides, and also just like as something like as an education. I think Lisa, if I remember a couple of things I shared with Mark, because you have I think a lot of customization also at the top. Is it correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, and again, I think exactly, is it customization or is it configuration? Is there a difference? Often there's not. But I think, thinking about the user stories specifically is, I think you really want to have a very good definition of done for each of those user stories, and to make sure that what you're doing in those user stories is what you're, solving your customers' pain points. But I think there is that piece too around being able to take them on that sort of change journey to say, you know what, this may be something where we can give you this version now, but you'll get what you actually need down the line. You have to keep doing that education and keep saying, you know what you get is not the final version. This is iterative. We're going to keep coming back to you to say, is this what you need? And you have to balance that need to get feedback from your customers with sort of not overwhelming them with, now you've become testing for everything. No, you still need, testing within your team, but obviously you want to get that, very candid customer feedback where you want to put things in front of them and say, does this work? And if not, then back to the drawing board, I think, in terms of those user stories. And again, there is that bit around how much can you solve through configuration within your own team versus having to go back to your vendor, and how can you keep the customer at the heart of that, because some things are always going to be workarounds, and there's a trade-off there, but what can you do to kind of, as they say, surprise and delight the customer on the pieces that maybe they weren't expecting? And it's definitely a tricky balance, because it can be you want to solve problems, but there's always going to be some other set of customers who want something completely different from the rest of your customers. So it's a balancing act too.
Yeah. Something also I saw in the market today, and this is something which is, especially for the new vendors, we have, as for example, in the CMS market, we are used to talk about headless CMS, which is more or less the main solutions today in the market in order to be able to distribute the content in different touch points, to customize, to personalize. But with the DAM, we have more and more system where you have a back, you have a front, and sometimes I'm surprised with some missing features, and especially regarding the front, some missing performances regarding the front, and in the meantime, without the ability for the customer to set up something. So it's all about services at one stage, or do you see also this this type of things today in the market, as I can see, especially here in France?
I think it's a great question, especially when it comes to professional services. I think people who really know DAM and who can provide that level of real professional services are sort of thin on the ground. They're like gold dust, and when you need someone who has expertise in a particular platform, it's even harder. So it's a really good question. It's certainly something where I think there could be a lot of growth, but it takes so long for someone to get up to speed on just one platform or two platforms. That's and I would say the vendors don't all. Some do better than others, but don't necessarily have just the capacity in-house to really provide those services. So it's a really good question. I think there's a big demand for it, but I don't think we have enough people to meet that demand.
Yeah, and just as for example, I just had this use case recently. It's a DAM is driven by one thing, which is metadata, and for me, it's the customer has to be able to customize its all his metadata. So, and I see that more and more with some new DAM vendors, we don't have anymore these capabilities. So you have to pay. And just imagine you are working with a retailer with a PIM system. You have a data model, which is something changing more or less every time. And so you have to pay every time to update your metadata. So are you okay with the fact that we still need to, from the customer side, to be able to maintain, to update ourselves this metadata?
Gosh, it's a really good question, because I think that is an issue I would say across the field. Is the data out there that you need to consume and push out are getting so much more complex, in the relationships. Again, when you look at master data management or like a PIM, things like that, it's not just this simple hierarchy, which is what you have in so many DAMs. And how can you get these two data models to talk to one another? And we're getting better in some cases. More and more people have graph databases behind the scenes, but even then it may still be not as accessible. You may have to, like you say, pay to get real work done under the hood, and I think it's a real limitation at the moment, sort of across the board. I'd love to see more vendors getting into that sort of more sophisticated data management space to make it easier, so that it is easy for the customers to do it, because right now it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
What do you think about using AI/ML, in the layers around search to optimize that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Definitely possibilities there, although then it depends on how complex your data model is, and are there things that are so proprietary they can't be easily sort of consumed, if you like. But really good question.
Yeah, I am excited about the innovations that we're seeing though in the AI/ML space, because I do feel like it's going to make really rigid metadata models more and more a thing of the past.
Yeah.
You can kind of see where it's going. It's exciting, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And the last question was asking by Lisa, but I think we are all agreed that this is one of the big items. And I've got a couple of slides after just to illustrate. So how finally we can imagine running DAM as an agile product.
Yeah, I think it's the best way to do it. I'll say that. I really enjoy working in Agile, just because you're getting that customer value out there early and often. So it's just a nice way to get real customer feedback and to make sure that you're building in a way that makes sense for your customers, or at least the customers you're engaging with most frequently. You still have to kind of make sure that it's not just the loudest voices you hear, but I think it's a great methodology for actually getting things out the door, which you don't always have if you're in a traditional waterfall or sort of very I would say very rigid sort of product or project management approach. And again, you can be agile within your agile, but I think it really does deliver value for customers.
Yeah, and Celine.
I would add to that, actually, with my more recent experience, it's really, I'm appreciating how it's a living system. And I think people get almost sometimes surprised when they're going, well, why do you need our feedback? Well, because we're always looking to improve it. We're always looking to see if there's anything that we're missing. But I think you touch upon something really important as well, Lisa, which is how do you get the right voices involved and how do you reach out to them? I think that's something that I'm sort of trying to get to grips of, the communication aspect, and how do you get, you know, a wide group as possible to get involved in those decisions of changes made to the dam.
I think some of the key features that can help run a dam as an agile product are actually really great connectivity between your content. The less you need to leave apps to go find things in different repositories, the better. And then the other thing that I think is really underrated is analytics and reporting on how the dam is being used, what all that feedback on what content is performing and those types of things, because you or even report on what searches are being run and end up empty. That's a fascinating report. What are people spending time looking for that you don't have or can't return information about? So those are the types of things that'll allow your users to get the most out of the product. And from an agile perspective and prioritization of how we evolve the product, it helps us to really hone in on what's going to be most important for our evolution.
Yeah, I do agree. And a couple of things I will show just after it's, and I'm surprised sometimes. In fact, there's two things, and especially for the report, thanks for the for that, Jill. It's sometimes I'm very skeptical when I see some reports of some DAM vendors. It's just a mess, so it brings nothing. Okay, it's important to know how many people are connected, etc., but it's not something which it brings information to the business. And we don't have so many solutions in this world. Of course, we have some of the big names, just like Adobe, etc. We have some amazing analytics. But for the rest of the world, it's sometimes not very useful. And in the meantime, on the other hand, customers. I was just with one of them this morning and said, "I've got analytics, okay, so how it can help me?" They are just working with them since the last 3 years, just like you, Lisa, and so they are just discovering that they have analytics. So very, very strange. But so. We'll just have to move, and so I will jump finally to the methodology, and I really like, because this is one of the guys I'm working with, and I really appreciate since the beginning, because it's one guy. He was working, Eric Chagnot, the CEO of Michelin, starting working with Apple, with a lot of companies, Microsoft, etc. And so it's good to know and to hear from customer that the success is the technology is 5%. And everything is with the people at the end, and I think it's more and more true after years. And so this is more or less this design thinking approach that more or less we are using every time, because it has an impact finally from different perspectives, from the metadata, from the governance, and etc. And so reason why that we are. As for example, and especially since the pandemic, we cannot meet the people. So it was very very frustrating for us. So we are using a couple of softwares or services. On our side, it's Klaxoon. So where we can meet all the people in different rooms, virtual rooms, and we are just trying to. So sorry, it's in French, but. Okay, so what's your pain points? How you are managing the assets? How you are managing the approval of content, etc. And we can do some very complex things finally, by the way, between workflows and etc. And really, every time starting from that point, it's a nice way to get marketing, communication, IT, and managers, and etc. So do you know this type of services, of tools, etc.? And do you think that it can really help to start with a project?
Yeah, and this is best practices in terms of product management these days for agile product management. Absolutely. Design thinking, and you starting with user stories and then breaking it down to your sprints. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And using things like Miro boards to be able to visualize everything, even if it's just some words, to be able to move those sticky notes around and say, no, no, we want this or we want that. And I think, really important too, the things about sort of start doing, stop doing, having those regular retrospectives, seeing what worked, what didn't work. You want to keep moving forward, but you want to make sure you're actually capturing those things you learned in the previous sprint, or in whatever it is you're measuring. I think it's so important to make sure that you have that feedback loop and it's not something you're forgetting to do. You're just forever marching forward. You need to make sure that you're really incorporating those things you've learned.
And Celine, with your team, how you're managing finally the project? So it's, I think as usual, we have Teams, Zoom, etc. But how you try to bring this to manage this customer empathy and to manage with some interaction between the people?
Yeah, at the moment, it's really very much Teams that I use to get in touch with people with different teams, but also rolling out training. So to get to know the different roles that exist in the different teams globally. So that's where I'm starting at, but it's still need to set up a formal way of managing the whole program, shall we say. But yeah, at the moment it's mainly rolling out training, getting to know people, getting them confident with the system, and also kind of identifying the different pain points and where we're at, so that then we can kind of move forward and see what we really need to focus on, what's the objectives, and align with the greater organization objectives. And also looking at our own capacity as well, what is possible, so that I can manage expectations as well. So it's very much at the initial stages, discovery stages, before we kind of move to the next.
Okay. And so more or less, this is something we are sharing with customers, because when we are trying to start with a technology or projects, or you have some peak, you have some slopes, and finally we are trying to work all together to reach a level of productivity thanks to this design thinking approach. One thing also, before moving ahead, some more trends around the DAM is, because I know that in US and UK, it's the foundation of everything, because you cannot start a DAM project without a manager, librarians, etc., which is not really the case in our country. And I was also surprised 2 weeks ago with one of them asking me, never we get to librarians because we have AI. Okay, oh my gosh. So I know that you are deep dive, agree with that statement. And I know especially you, Lisa, etc. So I think we all agree that to get a team with product owner, DAM manager, librarians, is just also the key of a success.
Certainly one of the keys, but I think again there's this bit about sort of empowering your users, making sure you have super users, you have people who really understand what it is you're doing, who don't need to know, or who don't realize that they know all of these technical things. They just need to be able to get their job done and to tell other people how to do it. So, but I think these are all absolutely key, and I think too there's probably a good case to be made, depending on your size, for a support model beyond librarians too. Who's helping you with technical support? Who's helping with access? Things like that. There's a lot when you're working in a huge enterprise too, that you luckily can sort of contract out a little bit. When you're kind of a lone arranger, though, you have to kind of do it all, or at least figure out how to make that work. But I think the whole figuring out the support model is really important too.
We agree, yes. And Celine, you have also librarians in your. And you are the DAM manager, but have you got a team with you to manage the content?
So I'm part of our creative content team. So they process. So I'm working with the creatives, producers, and as such. But I also have DAM managers on, should we say, a members level. So I have a couple of people who are also like super users. And they're like great champions for the system and great people to kind of like, I always say that two heads are better than one, or even more are better than one. So it's definitely useful, because I think as you can't you might be the product owner, but the people who have the answers are the users. And so it's really trying to, especially when you're working on a global organization, you have, different users, but also different ways of searching, different ways of using the system. So it's really important to kind of capture all of that and kind of take that into account. So I agree with Lisa. It's really, I agree that you should be empowering users and really trying to get them to understand the mechanics of it, how it works, so that they can really optimize it. They can help optimize the system for everyone who uses it. So yeah, so it's collaboration. It's collaborative.
Yeah. And each team also has their own special needs. So if you have power users within each functional area, that's critical to the success. And honestly, the usage of it, they won't use it if it's not meeting their needs. And the other piece is if the UI is simple enough in the system, you can become a power user pretty quickly. So that's compelling. And I've also seen, especially as everything's moved to the cloud and we're seeing a lot less on-premise installations, you're always going to have a digital asset manager per se at the company, but you literally could have someone that was just part of their job. Maybe they're on the content team or one of the other key teams that's a user of it. You could outsource the entire thing. You could have someone else manage your metadata. You could have someone else do the system administration, the support. All of that could absolutely be outsourced. So it doesn't have to all be in-house. It really just depends on the political culture and what's going to be important to the success of it within the company.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all your inputs regarding these different items. So, of course, a lot of people, and this is the feeling we have since more or less 1 year, just starting. Of course, we have a pandemic, which was a disaster for a lot of people and forever, but it's a huge start, and especially in France, to our DAM project. It's just, and as Kennedy was saying more or less at one time, it's in this time of our history, it's also a lot of opportunities. We see also more and more people searching more than a DAM as a single source of truth. It's really to collaborate, to manage, to approve. So one of his reports, we see also more and more expectations regarding the, as you said, Jill, the customer experience. It's definitely one of the key to start with in order to use the system. I remember years ago I was with a French customer, and if you, I think you know what I mean, Jill. I was on Web Native and Xinet, and the customer was saying, you need to do something to the UIs. It has to be simple as MySpace or Facebook. So definitely it's something which is more and more relevant and one of the top priority. And one thing also I see, because I'm very surprised also about the lack of security of DAM system, and especially as usual the new one, because we have front and back. And sometimes with a customer, I'm always starting some pain tests in order to stress the system. And we see that more and more customers it's good to get something in the cloud, but are we sure that nothing can be outside of his cloud by some people? So it's one item rising at the top. And as we said, it's all about also the easy of use. So you don't have to be an engineer, and finally, at the end of the day, to use a DAM system. So just very quick, because we know that the DAM system is a single source of truth to manage the assets and the metadata. It's more or less the life cycle of the asset. It's much more complex today because the DAM system can do a lot of things between approval workflows, etc. In the meantime, we have even more rich content, and with a lot of channels where we have to distribute the content. This is one of the use cases I've got on my side, which is always the DAM as a foundation for the PIM, for CMS. And so definitely, I would say 80% of our use cases. And so if we are back to finally what's important in 2021, it's I think you all agree with that. It's all about the customer experience, but I still also for me keep on the track the performance, because I'm surprised with some solutions that as for example they don't have something like some rendition, some server dedicated to render the assets, so you can get some slowness in the system. And of course, the third point is the ecosystem. So what's your point of view regarding these main key features that we have to for any customers? So of course, I do not miss the metadata and the rest, but what's your opinion?
Well, I'm going to jump in. I think what I'm seeing in the trend is that we're creating more and more video. Video is becoming like one of the main assets. And so I think systems just need to maybe, what I'm seeing is there's a real need for better performance on like processing video and, you know, in DAM. That's something I've noticed.
Yeah, I would say video as well, and the ability to really really tag those videos at a very discrete level and be able to do a lot of editing without having to edit, if that makes sense, just to really be able to create those new renditions. But I think I'll go back to something I referred to earlier too, just, and I saw it on your slide as well, just that integration with the master data management and not trying to manage all this data in the DAM. That often happens. I've seen that too many times, but to really have a nice, you know, very straightforward integration with a true master data management solution,
Yeah.
Then you can really be that single source of truth, because you've got, you know, you're inheriting this data instead of trying to maybe manage the wrong kind of data in the wrong system.
Yeah, and something also I can say, because I see more and more in the market today, and especially for PIM vendors, some of the latest new modern PIM system. They are saying that they can do everything, and so I still do believe that you need to get a DAM to manage your asset and a PIM to manage your products. And API wise and connector wise, we can do and connect the system, which is for me more relevant regarding the global performance.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can still make that look like a seamless experience for the customers, but have the right tool under the hood.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, the second item is today, in fact, when I see more and more people really asking for, I want to do more with the DAM, and especially and I see more and more finally in the DAM space vendors that with some online capabilities to edit the contents, and we don't have so many people that finally that can do the job. I'm still skeptical sometimes when people are not using InDesign server, because I had so many nightmares. But as soon as we have some InDesign integration, definitely it can help the things. So I don't know if you had this use case.
I think there's always this temptation to add work in progress assets, but yeah. I think for us it's an issue of storage, and for integrations it's more kind of making sure that everything is kind of like working fine before we actually move to that next level of like thinking integration. So the use case is sort of there, but it's sort of wondering, is it really something that is crucial, or, you know, so kind of that making that assessment.
Yes, and so finally, what we can see in the market today, we see more and more people, they are trying to connect between each other. So one example is Cloudinary, which is super well known for, it's a DAM, but in a way it's first a cloud storage. They have a lot of capabilities to do a thing. So and we can see that they are more or less connecting to everywhere and to every people. It's also about the innovation, because I think partnership is very important, as Jill was saying. So I just pick up two examples. We see a couple of vendors, they are connecting to more or less a lot of things, and especially CMS, PIM system, or they have some marketplace, just like the Binder guys, etc. But this is more something we can see. And I had some experience with customers, even if each customer has its own story, and sometimes we have to, I would say, to do some tips and tricks around the connector, but it facilitates the connection of a system, even if, of course, we have the API. But the API is also, for me, something which is a little bit tricky sometimes, because nobody can retest the API when you are starting with a DAM system. And I was very surprised sometimes that we are not asking to get 100% of the features of DAM, but some basic capabilities, just like uploads or things like that, are not available with the API. So it's, I think it's definitely an item to check. So I've got a couple of use cases also just to share with our attendees. So this one is the one I'm working with. So we have DAM, we have PIM, we have a lot of connectors everywhere, CMS, hundreds of websites, Salesforce. Salesforce is also one of the key today, where I see most of the people are moving to Salesforce to manage their personalization of customers, to drive automation, marketing alongside the content hub. And as we can see there, we're starting with the DAM. We have some metadata. When we're in the PIM, we have a different view, which is a product, but the images are coming from the DAM. And at the end, what we can see on Amazon, it's just a gathering of everything. So we see the images, we see the text, description, translation. So this is a perfect use case, in fact, regarding this usage of DAM and PIM. We have the same with Total, as for example, another use case. And in the meantime, the DAM also can be simply used to manage your photo library. And so we have so many solutions today in the market. So this one is from Photoware. But as for example, this one is, this is my DAM. It's an open source solution, so it costs me nothing. I just have to do a couple of codes, etc., with PHP and etc. So it's not at the top, but by the way, it works with IPTC, everything, and I've got something like more than 1 million of assets. So it works. Something we see also, and especially because we have a couple of customers, they are photo agency. And today, when we are trying to talk to the DAM vendors, they are not really, I'm surprised, and capable to manage taxonomies, etc., or just like a reportage as we are doing in France, where we have a gathering of assets, etc. So finally, we found one Italian DAM vendors, Momapic. So when we are trying to this year, we are moving a couple of our agencies with the solution, because we tried the best known, the best name in the market, but it doesn't really do the job for photography, in fact. Maybe Celine, because you are aware about what means photography, so are you agree with me? Or finally, can I take any DAM vendor to manage my library, or especially for photo agency?
Oh goodness, I wouldn't be able to say, but again, it would just it depends on what you want the DAM to do, and depending on that, you would choose the DAM accordingly. But I wouldn't be able to say which one would be best. Or
Thank you. So we have some other use cases with L'Oréal. So it's more just like Novartis, because we have also some packaging things to manage, which is not very simple. Creative operations, of course, it's one of the big items. And so, and today in the market, we have some, we don't have so many, I would say, plugins DAM vendors. So we have Silicon, we have a German company, CIR, but it's always good to finally to get these people able to manage finally to connect Adobe applications with your DAM system. So this is I would say the two players in this area. KPIs, as Jill was saying, it's very important, and especially as soon as we have some workflow in order to manage to take a look at some bottlenecks, etc. But we have some system that can redo the job very well. I'm always talking about also rights management, because the usage of the assets is so much more important outside of a DAM. But today we have also some amazing technology, whatever it's coming from Fadel, Imatag is a French one, or Digimarx, or in order to ready to monitor the assets outside of a DAM. One of the key missions is also about the strategy between cloud and on-prem, but we see that today in the cloud you can do so much more. We have thousands of web services, whatever it's Azure, Amazon, etc. And of course, at one stage, you have to make a decision to, okay, how I can select the right DAM. So, and you know, all of you that our dear friend Scott is always sharing in the Chief Market website all these crazy maps. And after years, it just, I think it's a little bit very scary for the customers. And when we have to make the decision, so I see that with large organization, it's always Gartner and Forrester, and I think it's this is also an experience I had from the US. It's sometimes difficult to sell something if you are not in these charts. Or after spending some time on vendor side, I know it works also. So it's I don't know the influence you can see today in the market regarding Gartner and Forrester, or maybe it's not because you are not there that you are not a DAM system. What's your thinking about that?
I think that the vendors in these quadrants pay a lot of money to Gardner and Forrester is what I think.
For sure, I know. So then we have some nice gentlemen and women that trying to, they like, I think, the subway of New York or Paris. And so they are trying to figure out and to find a position. And at the end, we have some I will say some organizations. So it's very strange to explain to French people what means simple, mid-range, and complex, because complex for French people, it means, oh, I do not have to use it. So it's a little bit bizarre, but I think also it's whatever it can be exposed and say, okay, I think it's not because you are not in that you are not a DAM vendor, but it's just one reference. But you know, I was talking with Celine just yesterday, and I would say that after spending so much time by customer, I would say system to organize the assets are these 6 guys, because I see more and more people using SharePoint, Teams, or whatever drives or WeTransfer to manage the asset. And you know why? For one reason. I was with one of them. He has a top DAM vendor, but it's all metadata driven. And one thing every time people are saying, yeah, but I need to get some folders to manage my asset because I'm completely lost. And if you don't have a strategy with your metadata, you cannot find the assets, of course. And in the meantime, one thing I can tell regarding collection management by most of the DAM vendors, you cannot search in the collections, you cannot retrieve your collections. So they are building a complexity inside their system. And I'm not surprised that at the end, I see some people downloading the files, the asset from the DAM, and uploading in SharePoint to send a link, which is just crazy. Is it something you can see also?
People always use what they're familiar with, even if there's something better. You have to, really take them on that change journey.
Yeah. And so just to end up in fight, so what we see today in the markets, I think it's a reason why we are really try to be the most agnostic as we can, because so of course the name you can see there, it's not maybe especially at the top you can see in the US because they are very French one, just like Kipik or Wedia, these guys, but this is the guys we can see today in the market. At the end of the day, I think we have also great system today, and I don't want to say that one is better than the other. Definitely Adobe is one of the top as soon as you want to manage personalization, the customer journey. I see that with some hospitality or large company here. We see more and more customer data platform, CDP, ready to because what people are searching for is also a live personalization of the content regarding the request. And so, but we have all these guys, and so again, it's not all about the technology; it's all about how you can use this technology. And so, just to end up, so of course we are trying to build a lot of posts on our blogs. Or I will share the presentation, and you can also find other links from Jill, the Ajillity website, from Lisa and Celine. And so very appreciate your time. Thank you very much for your time. So, and again, I'm very delighted to have shared this knowledge and best practices with Jill, Lisa, and Celine, and because it's very important for me that you are finish the job. So just one word from all of you regarding our subject today.
Thank you so much for having me and being on the panel with the smart ladies, as you call us. And just always remember, it's always about the people. Treat them well.
You're here, co-sign to all of that, always about the people and always about making sure you've got real governance, real taxonomy, and the people to make those things happen.
All of the above, all of that has been mentioned. Thank you for having me. And again, collaboration, metadata, and working and continuously approaching it as an agile project or program.
Thank you so much, and really appreciate it again 1,000 times. Really, thank you, Jill. Thank you, Lisa, and very, very delighted and to get you in this boat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, you too.